I'm in Dreamweaver and I'm ready to create my form. So I'm going to ask for a new page of HTML, and before I do anything else, bring the form elements onto the page. I'm going to save this file so that it establishes kind of a home base for itself. I'm just saving my form onto the desktop. This is something I'm just practicing with. Of course, you'd need to be more mindful if this were part of a larger collection of files. I'm going to name this my form 2. Obviously, you name yours whatever you would like. I have a panel, as you can see here, called Insert, and it has form elements. And these are all of the items that I might want to incorporate into a form. So if you don't see that, look underneath Window, Insert. Now, my insert items are showing up in a panel. Yours may be sort of showing up underneath the menu bar, so just maybe take a moment to get acclimated to where your elements are at. Another thing is there are many options in the insert, from common to layout options. One of those is forms. So insert, forms. The first thing we need to let Dreamweaver know is that there is a form being established, and we begin that process by clicking the form button. At this point, it's trying to help us along here by action, browse, all of this. The action is the script that we're going to need to kind of hook up to this form in order to process it. So I'm going to type in web form mailer. In an earlier movie, we went through the process of finding that and knowing where that exists in my GoDaddy account. So formmailer.php. Yours may be named something different, and you can leave this blank. You can go through the whole process of establishing and creating a form without having to know this. But you do need to have this eventually when you're working with a client if you want the information processed and sent back to them. Everything else then you can kind of leave as is. Now, if I happened to be over in the code view when I asked for a form, it's possible that you have asked for a form and all you get is this red outline, and you didn't have the opportunity to type in the name of the script. So if that happened, just click on the form, highlight the form, and look down in your properties. And again, it's in this action line that you're typing in the name of the script, and everything else can kind of stay as is. It's inside of this particular form boundary, this red outline, that you'll be creating your form. Now, as we are moving along, it's not going to look very good, and we'll talk about some styling options in another video. But let's just get started and talk about the different options that you might want to include. So most forms, you're going to ask for a person's name. So name, there we go. I've typed it in. The most logical thing is that I would want them to type something in, so therefore I will need a text field. And what comes up here is going to come up every single time, but just kind of click OK. We'll talk more about this eventually, but this is for accessibility, and I'm not that concerned about that at this moment. So go ahead and just click OK. So here's our little area where the user can type in their name. And it's a pre-established width, might not be the width or the number of characters that you would like. So let's just discuss some of those options before we move on. If you click on the actual item, the text field, and move down to your properties, you have a number of options. Do you want this to be single line, multi-line, and we'll talk about that more eventually too. Is this something that needs to be password protection? Do you think that it's going to be helpful to have an initial value here, like something like type here? You know, if you don't think they're going to be able to figure that out, I think they probably will, but let me try to get back to that form element. A little bit hard. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. But I am going to increase the number of characters in case somebody has a long name and that feels a little bit too tiny. So I'm going to type in 60, and when I hit return, you can see the width of that increase. Now they can type more than 60 characters, but it's just more of a visual understanding now that that is, you know, a longer width for them. The important part of this whole process that you do not want to miss is this field right here, right under where it says text field. Every one of these elements that you're putting on the page looks like something to your user, the person filling out the form. But when it's sent back to you after the form's been processed, we need to code it with appropriate information so that it knows what the answers are in response to. So as an example, right now if I type in, you know, a name here, the form is going to be sent back to me and it's going to say text field name. Well, it's probably self-explanatory that, yeah, that was in response to name. But you may have a number of questions that they're answering, and so you need to be more specific about the name. Penny Aguilera, for example, is in response to name. So at any rate, make sure that every item that you're putting onto your page, you're coming down here and you are entering a meaningful name that describes what they're filling out. So under text field, I have indicated name. All right, so we'll do this again. I know that was a little bit wordy. Okay, so here I'm going to just put the break tag, a BR, rather than a full paragraph return and come down to my next line where I can type in, let's see, I might want to know their address. Okay, so again, I will ask for a text field, just OK through this. I may want to make that a little bit wider, so I will select that particular text field, enter the number of characters that I would like it to be, but I will definitely enter address so I know that that is in response to address. Now, there are a number of ways that you might want to think about address. Do you want their street name? Do you want their city? Do you want their zip code? You've all been to forms where you've picked the state from a list. So we'll talk about all of those things, but for now we're just kind of keeping it simple and just so that we can talk about text field. Let's see, the next, so text field, pretty self-explanatory. Again, the only things you're really concerned about are getting a good label on it, as well as establishing a width in the number of characters. Another choice, which is very similar to the text field, is the text area. Let's see, maybe I want them to, you know, tell me about yourself. Okay, so they need to write more than just a one-liner. So in this case, I'm asking for the text area. Again, I'm just going to bypass this whole accessibility attributes by clicking OK. And I do have a fill out section, but it's a little bit taller and wider. But all of those properties can be adjusted. So as I highlight this, I can see my character width is 45. I can change that if I would like to. Number of lines, if I want to visually have it look like there's more space to write, I can do that. Right now it's multi-line. I could decide if it's password protected, and I do not want to forget to label this text field. Tell me about yourself. And And usually I will name them exactly what I have named the box or the text field. Okay, so that's pretty much it for text fields and text areas. They're just areas where your user can fill out information. I'm going to save this so I'm not losing anything. And even in the live view, if I'm in Dreamweaver, in the live view, or if you're previewing in the browser, you'll have the ability to fill this out. It's not going anywhere yet, but if you just want to experiment with the idea that these are regions within your form that your user can fill out, it's kind of a cool thing.